Guru Sri Juta Padakamalang.
Hare Krishna, welcome to our channel, Bhagavad-gita. Here it is, because we have Bhagavad-gita as it is. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. My name is Labanga Latika. We are presently in the 9th chapter, the most confidential knowledge. So, Prabhupada used to say that these books, they are like sugar cane. You take sugar cane, wherever you bite into it, it will taste sweet. So one can just open the book and read whatever one wants and take some inspiration. But in order to take full advantage of Krishna's words in the Bhagavad-gita, it is recommended to start from the beginning. So if you are here for the first time, you are very welcome. But I've made some playlists, so it's quite possible to even I know it's difficult on YouTube to find old things, but you can start from the beginning if you like. Because to come here to hear the most confidential knowledge, it's not that Krishna is keeping secret from us, but in order to understand it, it's good to, start from the beginning. To understand, first of all, we want to understand, I am not this body. I am the spirit soul within the body that gives it life. From me comes the consciousness that is present throughout the body. Wherever you touch somebody, they can feel it, because the soul is there in the heart, and the soul is an eternal person that has an eternal relationship to God. So we hear about that and we establish that as a fact, and then we can, because otherwise I feel it even in myself, because I'm also conditioned by this culture. When Krishna says things in a very strong way, I'm thinking, why so heavy? Why can't we just do a little bit what we want? The thing is, in this material world, we can do exactly what we want. But it is really very good to be aware of the results of what we do. They may not be what we think. Because we have these tendencies to think, we live this life and then we die and then it's over. And it's not over. The soul continues in another lifetime. And then we have the more, the religious or the spiritual wishful thinking that says, yes, whatever we do in this life, then in the next life we will continue to a higher place. No, we will go exactly where our consciousness takes us. So in this life we have the opportunity to develop a higher consciousness. And the most, the highest level of consciousness is to understand reality as fully as possible. And that reality includes us as little tiny spirit souls. They include Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is both the origin of everything, the most powerful, and who is also an individual, a person with likes and dislikes, with relationships. And he's inviting us to that personal relationship with him. And then, of course, we understand the material world, we understand these energies, we understand karma, all these things. But if we don't start with the first point of coming to the gradual realization, even before we pick up the Bhagavad-gita, I think many has had this sense of, who am I, what is the meaning of life, where am I coming from, and where am I going to? And then Krishna in the Bhagavad-gita start to respond to those questions, and some of the answers will be unexpected. Some of the answers will not be exactly in line with what we thought the answers would be. And that is not a bad thing. That is a good thing, because if we don't know something, then when we learn about it, then that knowledge will be something we didn't have before. I know, like children, I know when I was really little, we were speaking English. And I'm from Sweden. We don't naturally speak English, but a lot of the media, the culture, the songs and the films and so on, they were in English. So you would hear English. So we would speak English. So we would make sounds that sounded like English, and that was our English. And if somebody came later on, which of course happened in school, and taught us what the real English. We wouldn't say, no, I have my English, I'm satisfied with that. So also with spiritual life, we have some level of intuition that is natural. We have also maybe bringing with us from previous lives some knowledge, some realizations, but mostly we can take it from the simple fact that we're in this material world. We can understand that our knowledge is not complete, and then Krishna wants to give us that complete knowledge. And now we're in a very confidential level. I mean, it's not confidential in a, overly intimate way. It's just knowledge that we need to build up a certain platform to be able to absorb. So I'm reading text 15. I'm actually wanted to read the verse before. 2 verses. Krishna describes the Mahatmas, the great souls. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So that is Krishna's description of a great soul. And here we are reading text 15. He's also describing other people. Jnana yagyena chapyanye yadyanto mamupasate ekatvena pritaktvena bahudha vishvato mukham. Others who engage in sacrifice by the cultivation of knowledge, worship of the Supreme Lord as the one without a second, as diverse in many, and in the universal form. Yes, so it's interesting. We hear how we worship Krishna, God, and we can do it directly or we can do it indirectly, because ultimately there is nothing that doesn't come from Krishna. There is nothing that isn't a manifestation of his energies. So looking at it that way, we can appreciate and also worship, in a sense, God in those manifestations. But Krishna will point out that that's what you do when you don't have the full picture. So it will take you in the right direction, possibly. There are also possibilities to get sidetracked in those endeavors, but the right direction is taking us to that point of bhakti, of devotion to God, to Krishna. Purport. This verse is the summary of the previous verses. The Lord tells Arjuna that those who are purely in Krishna consciousness and do not know anything other than Krishna are called Mahatmas. Yet there are other persons who are not exactly in the position of Mahatma, but who worship Krishna also in different ways. Some of them have already been described as the distressed, the financially destitute, the inquisitive, and those who are engaged in the cultivation of knowledge. But there are others who are still lower, and these are divided into 3. 1. He who worships himself as one with the Supreme Lord. 2. He who concocts some form of the Supreme Lord and worships that. And 3. He who accepts the universal form, the Vishvarupa of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and worships that. Out of the above 3, the lowest, those who worship themselves as the Supreme Lord, thinking themselves to be monists, are most predominant. Such people think themselves to be the Supreme Lord, and in this mentality they worship themselves. This is also a type of God worship, for they can understand that they are not a material body, but are actually spiritual soul. At least such a sense is prominent. Generally, the impersonalists worship the Supreme Lord in this way. The second class includes the worshippers of the demigods, those who by imagination considers any form to be the form of the Supreme Lord. And the third class includes those who cannot conceive of anything beyond the manifestation of this material universe. They consider the universe to be the supreme organism or entity and worship that. The universe is also a form of the Lord. Yes. So these different levels, sometimes it is asked, why do we have many religions? And then when we look at the Vedas, it becomes very confusing, because some of the schools or divisions or approaches, they look so different on the outside. But it is so because all of us should have the opportunity to connect, to start to connect to the Supreme. And since we are coming from different angles, and since we are coming from different levels of realization and understanding, since our desires are different, our cultures are different, so many differences, then Krishna is supplying different ways to start to connect to him. But he's also describing in Bhagavad-gita that they are not exactly the same. So here, it's interesting to think, to worship oneself as one with the Supreme. I saw a little film once, and they were filming different yogis in India and their practices. And there was, if you've ever been to a Krishna temple, you know we always have an altar, and either we have a form of Krishna or we have a picture of Krishna. And there we more or less regularly, depending on the type of temple we have, we offer worship by offering incense and a light lamp, a ghee lamp, which is made from the oil that you get from butter, flowers, and so many nice things we offer to Krishna. And this film showed a man who had a similar altar and similar things to offer, a similar dress and similar ceremony, but instead of a picture of Krishna, he had a mirror on the altar. And I mean, for me, I read about these things in Prabhupada's books, and I think, yeah, it's good to know how one can be distracted and sidetracked in different ways. And monism is, in one sense, it's a bona fide level of realization of the Supreme, because when the realization is not so deep, that's maybe the first thing one realizes, the spiritual oneness, the spiritual basis of everything. But then when you come closer to Krishna, it's easier to appreciate him as a person. And when you get to know him as a person, it actually becomes horrifying to think that you would avoid him as a person and just imagine yourself as one with him, and therefore also God, because we're all God. Because if we're all God, then where is Krishna? Where is my relationship to him? How do my strongest desire right now, I don't think I can claim it's my strongest, spontaneous desire, but it is actually the priority that has made me take up a lifestyle that is directed towards Krishna. And even in this level, that is not the level of perfection, but it's the level of, a certain sense of belonging in a spiritual reality, in connection to God. Even on that level, this philosophy is abhorrent. But seeing that picture of this man who's actually seriously standing in front of the mirror and performing his puja, his worship, yeah, it's still surprising when you see it. But Prabhupada here, and Krishna also, is very liberal. We start somewhere. But just because we start somewhere, it doesn't mean we're not aware of where we're going. It's just like little children, they start school and they learn to calculate 1 + 1 is 2. But they are aware, even if they don't exactly understand how, they are aware that by time they will go deeper into this and they will get deeper knowledge. And similarly, if you start to practice some form of religion or yoga from the Vedas or from the other cultures in the world, it's good to be aware that we're actually aiming for a relationship of full love and surrender to God. And that's what we want to focus on, and that's what we want to, stress in the Bhagavad-gita, because even the Bhagavad-gita can be misunderstood, misconstrued, interpreted in different ways. So, yes, we hear about these different ways of taking to the Vedic traditions, which aren't just traditions, but they are actually paths for the soul to safely get out of this ocean of material existence. But really, unless one comes to the place of taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, and unless one develops that as a real desire, not just a duty or not just as a nice thing to do, but when the heart wakes up with that love, that is a safe place. Everything else, there is a risk to again get distracted, again get sidetracked, and again tumble across the universe, lifetime after lifetime. And it is of course possible to do that, but what we want to do with the Bhagavad-gita is to show the option of not doing that. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Please look below for a few links of information, and any questions at all, I'm more than happy to receive them, and I'll come back to them as soon as I can. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for watching. We aim for updates every Tuesday and Friday. Please come back. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there. We also have some links and information for you. And there is of course the subscribe button. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm a Hare Krishna, and I approve this message. Subscribe.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,